will be painting a landscape painting using just one color. Well, of course, we will be using black and white colors as well, but mainly our landscape painting will be just in the color of red. Okay, this kind of painting or color palette is called monochromatic color palette or color scheme. Narito ang mga kailangan natin ngayong araw. Paintbrush, acrylic paints or watercolor, clean water and masking tape, at syempre papel or any watercolor paper. I encourage you to go along with the video as I am painting so that you won't miss a thing in terms of instructions and some tips along the way. So let's have fun! For this activity, for this session, you may use any color that you would like to use. Depende sa inyong preference. But for me, for this monochromatic painting activity, I will be using a crimson red acrylic paint. But kayo, you can use watercolor, acrylic, or any color that you have at your disposal as long as it's just one color for us to make our monochromatic paintings. Monochromatic color schemes are achieved when an artist uses just one color and the variation of such color. For example, this color that we'll be using is a crimson red acrylic color, which you can substitute with any color that you want. And as you can see, we can achieve light tones and dark tones with just one color. Now, we will maximize the effect of these dark tones with the help of a black pigment. And we will maximize the light tones using a white pigment. The very first step in our painting session is for you to find your subject. It doesn't need to be a landscape actually. It can be any subject that is available to your reach. It's just fortunate that we have this landscape scene in our reach, so you try to look for the best shot in your place or in your room that you can use as your subject for your painting. Our next step is to sketch our subject or our view. In this case is this very beautiful horizon that we will be seeing later on onto our paper. Well, you can use a mechanical pencil to sketch the shapes and the overall look of your subject, or you may go directly with your paintbrush and with your lightest shade of your paint. Using my pencil, I will sketch out the initial details that I'm seeing and the things that I want to include in my landscape painting. Let's try to make the sketch fast. So it's important that you establish your horizon, the sun, some of the details. You don't need to sketch the details too much since you will be covering it with paint. You just get the overall After sketching, we will try to make a layer of a thin, the lightest shade possible with our single color. Here's my color palette, with just a makeshift color palette. We'll try to thin it with loads of water. We'll try to thin that out with loads of water. And we'll try to paint the lightest area that you can see in your subject, such as the sky, with the lightest or the thinnest paint possible. Ano nangyayari pag na ano siya? I mean, ano nangyayari ngayon? Wala, ito na. Ngayon pa. Saan? Maingay. Ha? Maingay. Dito tayo mag-scan. Notice how the masking tape or any tape that you have at your home helps us to keep our work clean in case of accidents such as this happening. Well, the edges are kept clean as possible using this handy tool called masking tape or paper tape that you can buy at any bookstore or kahit saan na tindahan na malapit sa inyo. After painting the lightest parts of your work with the lightest tint of our selected color, we'll proceed with a much concentrated color by using less water and more paint to build up the structure of the houses and the details. Don't worry if you can't get all the details that you want to put in your painting. The goal is to create a painting with just one color, which we call a monochromatic painting. In color psychology, the color red gives out the impression of passion, love, rage, anger, and other intense emotion that, well, you can feel when seeing the color red. As we wait for the first layer to dry, notice how red pulls in your emotion, and what kind of emotion do you feel when looking at the color red? How about you? What color did you choose for our monochromatic activity today?
A few moments later.
Now that the first layer of our tint is dry, we can now add much intense color and some black pigments to make darker areas darker, and some white pigments to add highlight to our monochromatic painting. Stop.
Meanwhile,
now this can help you out in creating gradients for your monochromatic painting. First, let's get our hue or our absolute color from our watercolor pan or your acrylic pan. Then put it on to your mixing palette. try to thicken up the paint and apply it as we go. So let's create a flat wash. Now what we will be doing is to create a visualization of how we will thicken out or thin out the paint using water only. So with clean water, let's try to thin out the paint and see how we will go from dark to light with only just one color. So as you can see, the darkest shade to the lightest tint of our hue. Voila! We have our lightest tint from our darkest shade. Now, there's another trick that we can use in creating differences from shade to shade, as you can see right here. One thing that we can do is we can add a darker pigment such as black and white pigment to thin out the colors or to add shade or tint to our absolute color. For example, I added this. Basically, it's still just one color, but we're building up different shades of that color using a black pigment. Still red, but just with a darker pigment. Now let's add in white, or you can do that here on the palette. Remember to wash your brush as you go. Now we created a gradient of monochromatic red. Now, for us to recreate the leaf-like pattern and the texture of the tree, we will use, well, where is the camera? A dry tissue and dab it on the wet paint. So let's try. We'll try to create textures. Now that we are finished with our first monochromatic painting, let's have a closer look on how does this one color painting looks like. Now let's look on this red painting. As we know, based on color psychology, red colors often gives out intense emotions or a sense of danger, blood, and sometimes also love. While looking at this particular painting, what emotions do you see? What emotions, what ideas are being given to you by this monochromatic painting? Monochromatic paintings are not just good exercise for art and developing art skills, but it is also a good medium for expression and expressive paintings. Why is that? In using colors and applying color psychology in making artworks, we can see that using two different colors with the same subject can give out a very subtle yet defining effect on our artworks. Using blue paint gives us a sense of peace, a bit of sadness, since blue is often associated with sadness and peace, while red gives us an intense feeling. May it be danger, or it depends on how you perceive the color, but what's obvious is these two color schemes, monochromatic colors, gives out two different emotions that we can explore as well when painting with monochromatic colors. I also tried to play around with different color schemes such as analogous color scheme and complementary color scheme, but with the same subject also. Notice how different color schemes give out a varied set of emotions when you look at these paintings. Now, it is up to you if you wanted to try analogous color schemes. With this analogous color schemes, you can see the blues, green, and yellow, which are all analogous in the color wheel, while this painting is painted with purple or violet and yellow, which are complementary in the color wheel. All of them incorporates ideas from the color psychology and color theory altogether. Learned something today, and if you have any questions, you can comment down below or ask me in email. And I hope you did learn something about monochromatic paintings and painting with other color schemes as well. And make sure to explore other colors as well and see if what does that color give out, what emotion that does it give in terms of painting or in other media that you can use, such as painting, graphic design, and the likes. So, goodbye!